I started another business. I was like, trying to be free as an entrepreneur and, just grinding through that season.
Author of Be the One, founder of Make Wellness, a company that sells science-backed peptide formulas to support energy, focus, and recovery. Company projected to make $100 million in its first year revenue. Justin Prince also built 5 multi-million-dollar businesses, generated $1 billion plus in revenue, and shared stages around the world with icons like John C. Maxwell and Ed Mylett.
We eventually, with that business, I created one of the top sales organizations in that company all over the world. I was speaking in Moscow and Omsk, Russia, and Almaty, Kazakhstan through the former Soviet Union, and keynote speaker at the 6,000 person kind of event and so on. So we turned it into a success. I ended up selling that business. I did private equity for the next 2 years. I came into a company that was 25 years old. It was 8 years in a row of double-digit decline in revenue. So it was like going the wrong direction fast, falling apart. We came in as part of a consulting team to see if we could transform this old company. And in that process, we kind of toured with the floorboards, we restarted, and we launched, in essence, a new company out of the ashes of this old company, new everything, new ownership, new executive management, new compensation, new products, the whole thing. And we went out and over the next, 10 years, 10, 11 years, we did a few billion in revenue, and it was a really positive experience. It's interesting now because that used to be the end of the story. Right? I launched a new company called Make Wellness, which is the company I'm the founder of today. And, we're sitting here, we just finished our 7th month, but, we're pacing this year to do, in our first year, well over $100 million in revenue. And, we have a business that's really redefining the future of wellness with what's called bioactive precision peptides, which is basically like peptides that are from nature that you don't have to inject. You can take them as a nutritional supplement. I encourage people to dream a dream, that's in your heart. Dream a dream big enough to inspire you. Big people are not moved by small dreams. Like, you have to have something that wakes you up early, keeps you up late, fires you up, it's worth the fight. And then second thing is to dream a dream big enough to inspire others.
Failing your way to success. I think it's such an important phrase. Is there a moment where you look back in life and you're grateful for something that happened to you and why?
So failure is not the opposite of success or the antithesis of success. Failure is a part of a process towards success. So, failure is not final. Failure is not a person or an identity. It's an event. And
Make Wellness. It's rooted into science, peptides, and purpose. Can you explain a bit more about this company? I'm excited to talk a bit more about it.
Peptides are really the future of wellness. A peptide, it's a small chain amino acid. It's a cell signaling molecule. And so one of the reasons that they're so popular is they can talk directly to the cell. So I'll give you just a contrast. A normal nutritional supplement you take, got some vitamins, got some minerals, whatever it is, you put it in your body and it trickles down and you're hoping it kind of finds some deficiencies in the body. It's kind of how you're hoping it works. With peptides,
the code to winning insights you need today to seize the world tomorrow. Today we have an amazing guest. If you're interested in learning about the entrepreneurial space, if you're interested in learning about being an author, international speaker, somebody who has generated over $2.5 billion in revenue throughout the course of his journey as well, this is the episode for you. I'm here with a guest, very, very, very inspiring story as well. Also the author of Be the One. And I also have the privilege of having a signed copy as well. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, our amazing and special guest today, Justin Prince. Welcome to the studio,
man,
boss.
What an honor, brother.
Awesome.
What an honor to be with you.
And can you give us this a quick, when I get straight into it, can you give us like a brief introduction of pretty much like who you are for our guests that don't know you?
Yeah. What I'd say to start is I'm a husband and a father. I'm a passionate man. But from a business perspective, my folks got divorced when I was 12. We moved 13 times in the 7 years through the teenage years. Mm-hmm. And I was my mom's oldest at home. And then, I had really no professional background. I dropped out of college about a semester and a half into college. So I had no formal education. And what I did have was a lot of dreams, a lot of goals. And I really wanted to be something with my life. I wanted to do something with my life. And my wife and I got married. I was 22. She was 25. 13 months later, had a little baby boy. So I was 23, had, life's kind of coming at you. I was introduced to my first business at 25.
Which was?
I was owning a distributorship for a wellness company. We were distributing their products. And long story short, the company, the kind of parent company we were distributing products for went out of business. And so like literally overnight we were out of business. And so I was below zero financially, back on credit cards, back on taxes. I moved my pregnant wife and our now 2 kids into the loft of my wife's parents' garage. So I have 2 little babies sleeping in the closet. My wife and I are sleeping in the little loft area. I pick up 2 part-time jobs to, make ends meet. One on the weekdays, one on the weekends, and the kind of sales jobs. And then I started another business. I was like, trying to be free as an entrepreneur, and just grinding through that season. My wife was pregnant with our 3rd one. We had 6 pregnancies and 4 kids, so we had a stillborn birth and a miscarriage, and she'd get really, really sick during the pregnancies, meaning like the morning sickness thing, but it would last the whole 9 months. And so she was 4 for 4 C-sections. So she's trying to take care of these 2 kids. She's sick. It was just this like, I'm trying to like get us, make it all come together. And we eventually, with that business, I created one of the top, sales organizations in that company all over the world. I was speaking in Moscow and Omsk, Russia, and Almaty, Kazakhstan, through the former Soviet Union, and keynote speaker at the 6,000 person kind of event and so on. So we turned it into a success. I ended up selling that business. I did private equity for the next 2 years, and then about 12 years ago now, I came into a company that was 25 years old. It was 8 years in a row of double-digit decline in revenue. So it was like going the wrong direction fast, falling apart. We came in as part of a consulting team to see if we could transform this old company. And in that process, we kind of tore to the floorboards. We restarted, and we launched, in essence, a new company out of the ashes of this old company, new everything, new ownership, new executive management, new compensation, new products, the whole thing. And we went out and over the next 10 years, 10, 11 years, we did a few billion in revenue, and it was a really positive experience. It's interesting now because that used to be the end of the story right there, and we were kind of riding off in the sunset. And there's like arcs to stories. It's like you struggled in the valley and then you hit the peak. What happened to me was we were owned by a private equity group, and in private equity, an income like I had built, it looks like an asset until revenue softened. Then all of a sudden it looked like an expense. And so they were looking for ways to cut cash. And one day I landed in New York for fall break with my wife and kids. I'm the number 1 earner in the company. I'm kind of living your best life at this point. And they said, you're terminated. And it was just kind of this, basically all on a kind of a false rumor, really. So they're like, we're suing you. I was like, what the freak is happening? No phone call after 11 years, billions in revenue. And so we kind of locked horns. I was like, I'm going to stick up for myself. That is, by the way, think about it this way. It's a multi-$100 million company, a multi-billion-dollar equity fund versus you. It's a little intimidating,
Exactly.
And but I knew they were wrong, and I knew the narrative was wrong. And so I was like, I'm going to stand up for myself. So we countersued. And in that time, you really ask yourself, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? It's really, really painful. All your income at this point was stopped. To validate or justify the termination, they kind of drag your name through the mud. You're just like, man, this is so painful. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, I told my kids, I'm like, I'm a fighter and I'm not done. We're going to freaking fight back, and like, I'm not done. And so about a year later, I launched a new company called Make Wellness, which is the company I am the founder of today. And, we're sitting here, we just finished our 7th month, but, we're pacing this year to do, in our first year, well over $100 million in revenue.
Wow.
And, we're kind of, we have a business that's really redefining the future of wellness with what's called bioactive precision peptides, which is basically like peptides that are from nature that you don't have to inject.
Exactly.
You can take them as a nutritional supplement. And so it's just the craziest thing. It's like one of those things where you say to yourself, you hear these isms like, life's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And the truth is I look back on that journey, including the downs, including the grinds, there's the ups and the downs and the ups and the downs. Like, I never would have thought with that company that I would have thought I was going to be there, would do it forever. And what was interesting is about 15 months after they did that to me, the private equity company, so with me it was day before payday, no phone call, got rid of me. They did it to the entire company. They shut the whole, day before payday, shut the whole company down, no prior notice, everybody was toasted. And so it was just one of those things where, it happened in essence to everybody. So it just all happens for you somehow, life somehow happens. I'll share a quick story. I had a friend of mine.
Quick question. Were you in New York at that time?
Yeah.
Were you living there, or was
No,
it
just
from?
landed for fall break.
Okay.
Wife and kids.
But the company was based in New York, but you were working.
No, the equity group was in New York. The company's in Utah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I would just happen to be there on vacation, fall break,
right.
you know, that whole thing. So I had a friend of mine, she lives here in Salt Lake. She's kind of like a life coach, kind of a spiritual coach. I've never hired her. She and I are good friends. We've spoken on similar stages. We're just good friends, been on her podcast and so on. She called me about 2 weeks into this whole thing. She calls me one morning. She goes, "How are you?" And I'd had a particularly painful night before. There's just a lot going on. Your whole world just got flipped upside down. And I said to her, "I'm doing good. I'm doing good." And what I should have said is like, "I'm not doing so good." You know, like I'm bursting into tears, you know. She goes, "I got a word for you." I'm like, "Okay, what's up?" And this is kind of how she is. She's really kind of deep thinker. She goes, "Trust the redirect." She goes, "Trust that God's in the details of your life and trust the redirect." And I remember thinking, I was like, it really hit me, those 3 words, trust the redirect. And maybe for some of the folks listening right now, maybe they're in a moment of their life where it's like, you're really going through it, maybe with a health crisis, or maybe with a child, or maybe with a divorce or bankruptcy, or, you know, some mental health challenges, or some really deep, painful times. And maybe you're just being redirected. You know, maybe God's in the details of your life, and it's just like you trust the redirect, that all this is actually happening for you, not to you. And, you know, again, as cliche as that stuff sounds, it's really what happened. And I feel like we have a chance now with our current company to go change the future of wellness, you know. So it never would have all happened unless it all, you know, kind of you did a little bit dirty in the process.
And I think religiously, I love what you just touched on. Religiously, we know that everything does happen for a reason. We know that sometimes God does redirect our paths as well. Like when I first came to the US, I think you and I spoke before we started recording. The amazing thing about like touching base JFK before you come to Salt Lake, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is everything you've seen like in the movies as well. But my entire goal when I came here was to graduate, go straight to Wall Street. And so like I did 2 internships in the financial district with Bloomberg. One was remote through COVID and after. But then as time went by, when I started finding out that my friends were like making 6 figures doing solar sales in 4 months, I'm like, no, let's give it a shot. Like, let's put this thing on pause. Let's give it a shot. And I realized the beauty about being here in the United States is that, you know, the fact that this is the capital of capitalism. I feel like there's an opportunity you can reach your full potential in terms of wealth, in terms of just gaining so much success, and it just provides that opportunity. Would you say you've seen any of those examples elsewhere? Or
No, listen. This is so important. And anyone listening that's in the younger generation, this is so important for you to hear. So capitalism takes a really bad rap here in the United States for some crazy reason. There's this like that it's somehow evil. And listen, capitalism is not perfect. The economic system of capitalism is not perfect. It's just the most perfect economic system that's ever been developed by a human ever in the history of the world. Like if you look at, I've been all over the world. You know, I've stood on the border of North and South Korea. I've been through the former Soviet Union. I've been over to South Africa. Like, been all over the world. And you look at these different economic systems that have been put in place, and none of them have pulled more people out of poverty and produced more success than the economic system of capitalism. And it's this idea that you can raise yourself up from the bottom and go to the top and like make it happen, you know? And are some people like, you know, given a head start for whatever different reason? Of course, for sure, right? They were born here, these parents, the situation, I totally agree with that. But capitalism has all these stories and all these examples, and it takes people typically from other countries to really recognize this. Like when I was in the former Soviet Union, I was in a place called Omsk, Russia. Omsk, Russia, no kidding, we're driving down the street, and there's a blown-out tank in the middle of the road that they still hadn't cleaned up after however many years. You know? It was obviously a sobering reminder. There was rows and rows and rows. You've seen this in South Africa. There's rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of brick apartment complexes, but basically it's the projects, right? So it's just as far as your eye could see. And what communism said is that they gave people shelter, food, basically shelter, bread, sausage, and healthcare. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of took care of you that way. And from the Bolshevik Revolution started in 1917, the Bolsheviks took over in 1921. That was Vladimir Lenin, ultimately Stalin, and created the United Soviet republic, right? The USSR, not the United Soviet Socialist Republic, and for 70 years. So think of this. What's the average lifespan of a human? That's basically one generation of a human. 70 years, right? 21 to 91. They were in the communist rule of the former USSR. For 70 years, they burned the books. If you wanted to read the books, they burned the books. For 70 years, they ripped God out of the country. It became an atheist country. So for 70 years, if you had like a dream in your heart, like I want to be successful, I want to own my own business, there was no private ownership. You didn't own the business, didn't own the home, didn't own the car. The government owned all that, but they gave you food, shelter, healthcare, and sausage and bread, right? It was for the peasants and the workers. They rose up against the kings, against the czar. I share all this with you to say, for 70 years, for a whole generation of people, they would, when they breathed in like, that smell, they didn't smell political freedom and they didn't smell economic opportunity. And I'd like to tell them, I remind Americans and people that live in freelance around the world, but ultimately Americans, I say to them, everyone breathe in real quick. So if you're listening to this, just imagine, just do this with me. Everyone breathe in. You know what that smells like? That smells like political freedom and economic opportunity. And not everyone around the world gets to breathe that air. That air is rare. And anything in life that's rare is more valuable. That's rare air. And so because you get to breathe that air in America, it's not only your right to go pursue your dreams, and it's not only your right to go pursue economic opportunity and go chase it and go make it happen. I believe it's like your responsibility to make it happen and to go for it and to give your life your very best. And the reason why is because other people would do anything they could to breathe that kind of air. And so we live here and we just think that, my mom breathed that, my daddy breathed it, my grandpa did, my great-grandpa, that's all. Just because you smell it now and you breathe it now doesn't mean it will always last that way. You have to fight for that kind of air. And so, man, I get passionate about capitalism. That economic system has completely changed my whole life. And it's been able to provide me a platform to change other people's lives, to create economic opportunity for people where whether it's small or big, whether it's hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions, you change someone's life with their ability to generate additional income, pursue dreams, pursue goals. I actually believe goals are planted, like they're installed in your heart.
Exactly.
And I encourage people to dream a dream, that's in your heart. Dream a dream big enough to inspire you. Big people are not moved by small dreams. Like you have to have something that wakes you up early, keeps you up late, fires you up, like it's worth the fight. And then second thing is to dream a dream big enough to inspire others. In other words, the real dreamers are the ones that inspire others. Like Walt Disney had the stories told that two of his executives stood on the ribbon cutting stage at Disney World. So Disney World has Epcot Center and just this incredible place. They basically created a city out of a swamp in Orlando. And Walt died before Disney World was done. So here's the executives are doing the ribbon cutting, and the one turns to him, he says, "Man, I wish Walt was here to see this." And the other turned to him, he said, "He did see this, that's why we're here."
Powerful.
And you have to dream dreams big enough to inspire you, but then also dreams big enough to inspire other people. And that's, that in this example, that's what Walt did. And God, you just live in this incredible, country where you can dream. You can dream dreams. You want to know what's also so cool, KG, is your dreams are different than my dreams, and my dreams are different than this person or that person. Like we all have different dreams because different things fire us up.
Exactly.
But man, you want to get hyper intentional with this stuff. Like don't just leave it to chance. Like every influence has influence. We sit there and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. All those influences have influence. Like you got to get hyper intentional with, what do I want to create in my life? Like, what kind of dreams do I have? Like, what do I want to be? What do I want to do? And again, with an economic system like we have with capitalism, you can go chase that stuff. And that's one of the reasons I admire what you're doing. Sitting here, adding value. You're new to the country, new meaning number of years. You're getting educated. You're pursuing dreams, putting out value. Like, to me, you are the living embodiment of the power of the American dream.
I appreciate that so much. And I've noticed as well, when you spoke about people like Walt Disney, they're very, very similar to people like Steve Jobs, very, very similar to people like Henry Ford, very, very similar. Like there's a history of these founders and creators that all visualize something. And because of the economic privilege and understanding of realizing the potential that you can reach, and the capitalism foundation allowed people to actually dream beyond that. And I feel like just being here, naturally when I arrived here, when I started seeing like guys my age just owning and becoming entrepreneurs, you start realizing, there's something very unique and peculiar about the opportunity. It's almost like the lid is open to unlimited potential. And which goes back again to like a gospel sense, where I feel like we inherited those attributes from our Heavenly Father to be able to become like Him. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm so grateful, obviously, for the opportunity. And I feel like sometimes when you are born in such an environment, you become a little complacent and you start creating problems that aren't there. You know, and I feel like that's one of the things that I've really capitalized on. I go out my way to always find myself in the right rooms with people like yourself. I find myself with people that are just always making things happen, because if you cut, copy, paste, like the blueprint is right there. Just execute it and ask for help. You know. So what do you want to add on that regard?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love this idea of the power of association and the power of getting in the right room. So check this out. So in my book, I have a whole section about success as an identity process. So you're never going to outperform the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as a loser, you're not going to show up and play like a winner. If you see yourself as like a winner, you're not going to roll over and quit like a loser. One of the identities that I encourage people to think about is the identity that you're a creator. So like most people live in a world where they react to the distractions of the world versus intentionally create the world. Like we just wake up with just instant reaction, right? Like instantly, I mean, first thing we touch according to research is our phones. Like boom, we're instantly into text, instantly into email, instantly into social, instantly into the news. We're instantly reacting to all the distractions of the world. Versus saying, you know what do I want to like create with my life? And you know, in the Bible, so the Bible, the Old Testament of the Bible would be written for Jews and Christians alike. Very first line, very first line of the Bible, you open it up and it's almost like God basically introduces himself in the very first line. It says, in the beginning, says God, and it says, did what to the heavens and the earth? Very first line.
Created.
He created, right? So it's almost like he's saying, hey, welcome to the book. I'm glad you're here. I just want you to know who I really am. And by the way, you're created in my image. We're going to get to that in a minute. But I'm a creator, and you're here to create some stuff too. That's for Jews and Christians. In Dubai, they have what's called the Museum of the Future. It's this incredible sculpture building. And in Aramaic, they've written on the outside. It's all written in the Aramaic language. And they wrote, it basically says this. It says the things that we create may not last thousands of years. The products that we create. It says, but the things that we create, we may not last thousands of years, but the things that we create can. The ideas and so on that we create can. And it basically says, don't just live a life, go build one or go create one. So that's from that perspective. Steve Jobs, you mentioned, came from a Buddhist perspective. Steve Jobs, one of his famous quotes was, everything around us that you call life, like if you look around this podcast studio, everything around us, the microphones, the cameras, everything around us that we call life was created by someone no smarter than us. And he says, therefore, you don't have to just live in life. You can go build and create one. And it's this idea that like all of these people from all of these different religious or faith persuasions, all of the great works are saying the same thing, which is, yo, dude, you're not just here to like hang out and just react to all this stuff. You're here to create your own things. Whether it's your own family, your own faith, create your own business, create your own happiness. Like you can create this stuff, create your physical fitness. You can create all these things. And so instead of just reacting to life and like, I just am where I am. No, dude, you get to go say, I am at this weight. I want to be at this weight. I want this body fat. I want to be at that body fat. I'm not married. I want to be married. My marriage is a disaster right now. I want it to be awesome. You can go cast a vision and go create all of these things that you want to go create because you were born to be a creator. That's one of the identities of realizing my life has value and purpose and meaning. The second way I process it, so the book's called Be the One. And the first thing to know is that you are the one. It's an identity. Like think of it this way. If you think of your parents, like mom and dad, think of your grandparents, great-grandparents. If we go up 12 generations from you was 4,094 people. So 4,094 people from all over the world came together to create you. You are the one.
Wow.
Yeah, you are the one these folks lived for, bled for, cried for, died for, gave everything they had for, was for you to have this moment, this life, this breath. And so when you realize, like, man, I'm the one. I'm the one. So the book's not called Become the One. You already are the one. The book is called Be. Be the One is to be the one today that lives a life, makes decisions, writes a story that future generations look up in their family lineage and they know who you are. They're like, it was him. He created the economic future. He taught us these success principles. He's the one that changed our family's lineage forever. The very first story of the book, it's interesting. You and I were talking about this just real briefly. So in 1842, George and Sarah Prince left England, and Queen Victoria had opened up land in South Africa. So they go 8,000 miles across the ocean, land in the eastern Cape of South Africa, started a little homestead, little ranch. They're instantly in the Hosha Wars. In 1850, his brother, my fifth generation Uncle John, was shot in the eye and killed by one of the arrows during the Hosha Wars. They used to hide my little fourth generation Grandpa Francis in the laundry because during the wars they loved to catch the small kids. It made it that much easier to get rid of them
because they were vulnerable, right?
And so check this out: 1853. Pardon me. George is out finishing up on the ranch. It's dusk, and the story I'm going to share with you is from his journal and his daughter's journal. So it's the story as they tell it. But as he's finishing up, he hears a voice behind him, and it says, "George!" And he turns around like this, and he says he sees an angel, and it's dressed, an angel, a robe, the whole thing, white, glowing, the whole thing. And it says 2 men are going to come to your home. They have a message of faith, and it describes exactly what the men are going to be wearing. It says you'll know them instantly when you see them. The whole thing. 2 years later, 1855, they're sitting on their front porch after a long day on the ranch, and 2 men come walking up.
Wow.
And he turns to his wife, Sarah, and he says, that's the 2 men from the vision. And they accept their message, they have a message of faith, accept their message. They get baptized 2 days later. And 1860, they leave their entire life in South Africa, 8,000 more miles to America, and land in Massachusetts. By the way, Sarah is pregnant with twins and has 6 kids, if you can imagine. And they go from Massachusetts to Nebraska. They're the last wagon train west, 1860. She ends up delivering these 2 little kids. They both die on the wagon train west. They dig shallow graves, bury these 2 little kids in graves they know they're never going to go visit again. Get to Salt Lake City, and they ultimately go settle St. George, Utah.
Were they in the Martin Hancock Company?
It was the last one out in 1860. It was a little bit of a different company,
okay.
Martin Hancock. And long story short, Sarah never physically or emotionally recovers, and so she dies too. So imagine you're George, right? You're trying to change the economic situation for your family. You're trying to be true to this new faith. You're trying to pursue your dreams and goals. You're trying to be a good dad, trying to be a good husband. Your 2 babies are dead. Your brother's dead, and your wife's now dead. And I tell people it's not always easy being the one. It's not always easy to have dreams and goals and really go chase it and go pursue it. And the story in the book is my son and I, 2020 COVID spring, I guess. Memorial Day morning, I said, "Hey, bud, do you want to go visit George? Go put flowers at his grave." So we go drive there. It's about 3.5 hours. It's a place called Escalante, Utah. It's the middle of nowhere. We get in our car, drive out there, and I'm telling him the story, George and Sarah's story I just shared with you. And we get there, and my son's 16 years old. So imagine a 16-year-old kid. He's a high school kid, right? Takes off his hat, sits it on the grass, and he kneels down in front of this guy's tomb. The daughter of the Utah pioneers had created this beautiful headstone. He kneels down at this guy's grave, and looks like he's basically saying a prayer, kind of having this kind of really touching moment. And when we leave, I said to him, "Hey, bud, what was your experience, at the cemetery?" And he goes, "Dad," he said, "I was thanking George for his courage, for his faith, and for his resilience. I was thanking George for being the one for our family." And man, I just thought to myself, KG, I'm like, yo, what decisions do I have to make right now where my fifth and sixth generation grandkids come kneel at my grave and they know my story and they thank me for my courage and for my faith and for my resilience, And the word decision's a Latin word. So the scission in the word meant to cut and the D meant off. So when they created the word incision, it cut in, and a decision cut off. So I tell people, so it means if you make a decision to go left, you cut off all decisions to go right because you made these decisions in your life. Check this out, bro. Every decision you and I have ever made, and every decision everyone listening has ever made in their whole life, has put us on these couches right now having this conversation. Like we made an appointment to be here together. Everyone listening, every decision you've ever made in your whole life, all the good ones, all the bad ones, all of them have put you listening to these words right now, right? And you've never been this old before, and you'll never be this young again. And you can't always control what's going to happen in life, but you can control what's going to happen next, because you can make a new decision to go be the one, for your family.
I'm in awe. That's such a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, that's our South Africa tie, bro.
I was about to say, wow, it's just so fascinating when you're just breaking down. It's almost like you have to look and understand, your last name is Prince, my last name is Dikani. The sacrifices the Prince Dikanis have made for me to be able to pursue this opportunity that I have today. Like, and when you were speaking about all the trials that George may have faced, he sounds like he was a modern day 1600 Job, and he could have easily given up as well, but he decided to push forward, and that's why you're here today as well. And I think it's very important we acknowledge our upbringing and like also uphold the importance of not only knowing that you are Heavenly Father's spiritual and literal like son and daughter, but also you carry a name of your family, and that's very, very important. Thanks for sharing. That was very powerful, absolutely powerful.
Yeah, I felt a lot of love for South Africa since we talked about this. So I always heard that story as a little kid. I made decisions in my life because of George's faith, for sure. But then my dad served a 2-year mission in South Africa, like I was telling you.
Was he a couple of mission?
What's that?
Which year was that?
Oh, God, how old is he now? He's like in his 70s now, so it's freaking a long time ago. So, but my point is I, as a kid, would hear these stories of South Africa and like, oh my gosh, my dad saw a cobra and lions and just these incredible stories of his journey there in South Africa. So I've always had a kinship and a love for it because of, all of those different stories, from my heritage, and then have been able to visit there multiple times as well. So we're, you being from South Africa, that's an easy win for me.
Well, I got to share one last thing. It'll be real quick, speaking about South Africa. So my parents were convicts. I often tell people I was baptized twice, and they're like, oh, no. I'm like, let me tell you why I was baptized twice. I was baptized when my mother was pregnant with me, and then when I was 8 years old. So I got double the blessings, and I'm extra spiritual. So that many are called and few are chosen.
Yeah. No.
But anyway, the story about that, my middle name is called Edgeworth, right? But Edgeworth is actually named after the 2 missionaries that baptized my parents. So what happened is one of them was Edgerton, one of them was Charlesworth, their last name. And so together, because of the experience my parents had in converting into the gospel, when I was born and they were there as well, after baptizing both my parents, they decided to name me Kagiso, which is my first name. And then Edgeworth is because of the both of them.
That's so cool.
And then the last name is Dikani. And there's a picture with like me, I think about like 2 weeks old, with both name badges as well.
That's so cool.
So, and I think sometimes when you look back and you just look at all these stories, everything starts adding up, because I feel like sacrifices that people make, whether it's like gospel-like, whether it's opportunity, everything has got a story. And I feel like we are here for a reason to be the one.
Yeah.
So, no, thank you very much. I can't believe we've been 30 minutes. I haven't even touched on question 1. That's
Dude, I tell people I'm like that doll, you like pull the string and it starts talking. And I say, how do you turn this thing back off?
No, I love it. I often tell people my best podcasts are the ones where I touch like just the first 10 questions. I think I'm only going to touch 5, but who's counting, right? So I often like what you talk about when you said failing your way to success. I think it's such an important phrase. Is there a moment where you look back in life and you're grateful for something that happened to you, and why?
Yeah. So failure is not the opposite of success or the antithesis of success. Failure is a part of a process towards success. So, failure is not final. Failure is not a person or an identity. It's an event. And failure is fertilizer, and your success will grow in the fertilizer of failure. You're learning. I tell people you either in sports, you either win or lose. In life and in business, there's a win or learn. It's like, are you learning something? If you're learning, then you're winning. So you either win or you learn. If you learn, then you win. And I shared that story about losing my prior business, a year and a half or so ago. And I mean, it was just so my income, and I share this with you just to build context. my income had gone from like 10 million a year to 8 million a year to 5 million a year, but still 5 million a year is 400 something thousand a month. You're like, this is living your best life, And so when you just instantly, that's all gone, you're just like, what the freak just happened? Like you wonder yourself, am I toast? Like, were those my best days? And now I'll never be able to recreate it. Or, maybe I got lucky. I don't know. Just, you start kind of questioning yourself. And it feels like a failure in the idea that in this case, that you feel like you got totally did dirty. Like you were being held up as a scapegoat for a bigger, chess piece. And, I look back now and like that story, I went and spoke, we were talking about with Jimmy. So I went and spoke in Lake Powell for his men's group. And one of the guys came up to me after and he goes, hey dude, I've spoken all over, whatever. He's like, that was like the best speech ever. I said, I appreciate that. And he was a really sharp guy. I said, hey, hit me up, hit me up. So he connects to me, that we spoke on a Saturday. On Tuesday, he drives 4 hours one way to St. George to have lunch with me and then drives 4 hours back. Super, super, super sharp guy. And he goes, no kidding, I've been all over. Like, that was the best speech. Like, you did such a good job. So he and I connected. I share all that with you. You say, why did you guys connect? It's because of that experience, the private equity group. Like, he had been through his own, experience where he got totally railroaded, character assassinated, he went from like literally the top to the, just got chopped down to size. And part of the thing for him is he never got quite back up. I said to him, I go, let me ask you a question. I go, are you playing small in your life because of this? He goes, dude, there's no question I am. And I share that with you to say, if you're listening right now and you've been through some real tough times, are you playing small because of those? Like, because it's a self-protective mechanism. You don't want to get hurt again, right? And that's the kind of stuff that starts to help you to move past the failure, to say, I'm not going to let that define me, or I'm not going to, like, now I won't trust people. Like, for example, if you go through a really challenging relationship, you're kind of like, I will never love again. I'm never going to open up my heart again because it hurts, But you weren't built to do that. You're built to still love. So the point is are you learning still? If you're learning, then the failure is fertilizer, and your success, what you ultimately are trying to be, the person you're born to be, will come from those failures that you learn and you adapt and you grow and you improve, and you don't have to go through it twice because you learned the first time. But all of that shapes you and molds you and gives you the contrast. If it's like, if you never tasted bitter, then sweet doesn't taste quite as good. If you never saw if you never experienced the darkness, then the light isn't quite as beautiful. It's like the contrast is a great teacher. And so when you fail, man, it's bitter. It's a bitter pill to swallow. But man, it makes your success that much sweeter because you've tasted both sides of it.
So powerful. And I mean, right now you've generated over $2.5 billion, obviously, in revenue and sales, and your experience as well. In today's, what would your definition be of wealth?
Yeah, I mean, look, wealth obviously is tied to like a net worth would be the way that you would tie it just from the way that we would think about it in our lexicon. For me, from a career perspective, I teach a formula I call the ILI formula. ILI is your income, lifestyle, impact. So income is, are you making the money you want to make, the dollars that you want to earn in your career? But the second part is, do you have the life that you love? Have you created a life that you love? Do you have the stress level that you want to have? Are you working the hours that you want to work? Do you have the hobbies and other things? Like, do you love your life? Are you waking up when you want to wake up? Are you in control of your life the way you want it to be? Because I would argue that if someone said to you, hey, I'll give you all the money, but your life's going to fall apart, lose your faith, lose your family, lose your fitness, lose your health, lose your connection, but you'll have all this money, I don't think you'd actually sign up for it, because the income is actually not the final goal. The goal is, do I love my life? And then the third I is impact. And it's, am I making a positive difference in the world? Like, does my legacy matter? Am I doing good in the world? Am I serving people? Am I adding value? If you make all the money in the world and your lifestyle is amazing, but you're selling cocaine, that's not going to work either. Why? Because your impact sucks. Mm-hmm. And you want to have a legacy of like, man, this person made a positive impact on the planet. Like, they did good work. The work that they did mattered. And to me, if you can do those three things, you build an income that you're proud of, it fuels and funds a lifestyle, and your lifestyle is not out of whack, meaning you're not just grinding to the dollar, and you're really making a positive impact. That's a pretty wealthy life, you know.
That's powerful. This goes back again to one of my mentors about 3 years ago. Kind of broke it down. I met him in Vegas, went on a double date, met him and his wife, know him. And so my mentor is Brad Lee. You probably know him in Vegas.
Just know of him.
Okay. Yeah, when we were down there, and he once did something in a video, and he actually said it in like one setting that we were at, and he said that if I were to give you $1 million tomorrow, would you take it? It's like, of course. Okay. If I were to give you $1 million, knowing that tomorrow you're not going to wake up, would you take it? The perspective completely changed because we know that.
I've heard him give that. It's really good.
And the perspective completely changed because now you realize that tomorrow is way more valuable than $1 million, you know, and it just, you get to see that you can get so much more out of your potential than just $1 million. Like you can't tie your life to that specific currency. And so I'm grateful for how you end up explaining that if you bring all those balances and those important things, and which segues to your company right now, which I'm excited to talk about, Make Wellness. You know, it's rooted into science, peptides, and purpose. But can you explain a bit more about this company? I'm excited to talk a bit more about it.
Yeah, so the peptides are really the future of wellness. A peptide is it's a small chain amino acid. It's a cell signaling molecule. And so one of the reasons that they're so popular is they can talk directly to the cell. So I'll give you just a contrast. A normal nutritional supplement you take, it's got some vitamins, got some minerals, whatever it is. You put it in your body, and it trickles down, and you're hoping it kind of finds some deficiencies in the body. It's kind of how you're hoping it works. With peptides, they're cell signaling, so they can talk directly to the cells. Just bam, they talk directly to them, and they can do it with precision. So it's like a heat-seeking missile versus like a carpet bomb. Like I hope that something lands. It's just like I can talk directly to this element or this issue. The challenge with peptides today is most of them that people are familiar with they're what's called synthetic peptides. So a synthetic is another word for fake, but basically it's a chemical compound that you've taken these different compounds and you've compounded them together in a lab to make a peptide. And there's also natural peptides in the world. There's peptides in our bodies. There's literally billions of them in nature. But up until now, we didn't really know how to identify the ones in nature that were the most beneficial, and then how to study them clinically and so on. So we partner with some of the top biotech labs in the world that are using artificial intelligence data platforms to identify, to isolate, and to do human clinicals with peptides from nature. So instead of them being synthetic compounds from a lab, they're actually Mother Nature created them. I tell people Mother Nature is the ultimate biochemist. Somehow in the beginning, when God laid it all out, all the answers were in nature, you know? And so they can identify them, and then they can run them through the gut versus having to inject them. That's one of the other challenges folks have is they either don't want to do injections or they don't want to do them long term. The synthetics, you do need to cycle on, cycle off, you know, for different periods. Or with bioactive peptides, these natural nature-based peptides, you can stay on them. So when we launched the company, I really felt like we had a chance to take this really incredible science and humanize it. So for example, some of the peptides today are things like CJC or BPC157. I think these are very scientific chemical names. And we said, what if we could humanize it to the way that a human would talk? So we built everything on I am statements. So like the products are called fit, lean, hydrated, energized, focused, and calm. So it's like I am fit, I am lean, I'm focused, I'm energized, I'm calm, I'm hydrated. And I tell people, like, do you know anyone that would not like to be fit, lean, and energized? Like, come on, like, you know, all of us would, right? And so the peptides in these, like in fit, the peptide is designed to help you to build lean muscle and then also for recovery. So the way to think about it is this. You're a young dude, but as we age, we'll lose about 30 to 40% of our muscle mass.
Okay.
And the most important thing you could do as you age is to maintain lean muscle because it holds all of your metabolic rate. And so it's like muscle is like an anti-aging elixir. If you want to stay young, you want to hold on to lean muscle. It gets harder and harder and harder as we age. And it's why, think about it this way, you think of like a 20-year-old, 25-year-old versus like an 85-year-old. It's like the 85-year-old has, in essence, shrunk over time. Like, you know, they've lost some of their lean muscle. So FIT helps to preserve and then build lean muscle. And so I tell people, you don't need to be a CrossFit champion. You don't need to be a bodybuilder. You could, as a human, if you want to stay young and be young, you want to hold on to your lean muscle. And then it also helps with recovery. We have a bunch of other incredible ingredients in there. There's an ingredient called NR. NR is actually the precursor to NAD. It helps your body to produce more NAD. And so that it's a stick pack, tastes amazing. You put it in your water, tastes unbelievable. Take it every single day. Lean helps you to target basically your challenging fat areas. So sometimes people will go on calorie restriction or they'll lose some weight, but they're like, no, I just look skinny fat. Like I still have it in all the crappy spots. With this, it helps to actually target some of those really challenging areas. Helps you feel much more full, much more satiated. So you kind of get rid of some of the normal cravings. Energized and focused. I take those typically in the afternoon. It's just helps you get dialed in on your focus, and then also to have sustained energy. So like energy drinks have a bunch of crappy ingredients, and then they also
have a spike.
They have a spike up, a spike down. So they spike up, and then it burns out your adrenal glands. So over a period of time, you actually feel way worse. And during the crash, you feel way worse.
Definitely.
This is actually recharging your energy, your ATP storage at the cellular level. So it's just like the super smooth ride. You just never have that crash. And so our products are just off the charts. We're launching another peptide this fall. I think will be, as big or bigger than any of the ones we've already launched. So it's this platform of these bioactive peptides. So here's a way I'd encourage you to think about it. This is a little bit more from a business perspective, but I think it's interesting from a health perspective. But so if like an iPhone changed the world, iPhone 1 changed the world, but you can't run forever on one play. You got to have the next thing. And so with peptides, as we have fit, and then we have lean, we have energized, we have focused, they go after these different systems of the body, the brain, muscle, weight loss, the whole thing, fat loss. Because they work with precision, you can get into all these different categories of the body. So whether it's sleep or stress or hair or bone density, whatever, the peptides affect all systems of the body. So it's a really unique platform for us to continue to launch products that I think some products will be multi-$100 million products, some will be multi-billion-dollar products, but the platform itself is this really wide vertical that we can go affect every system of the human body over the next 10, 15, 20 years and really change how people live, help them to live a healthier life. So I got really passionate about that story. And then our sales channel, I decided to do what's called a direct sales channel. And the reason why, instead of doing like Meta ads or Instagram ads or, TV ads, that kind of thing, our sales channel has a story. In the direct sales channel, it's a storyteller's channel. Like you got to go tell the story, but you got to do it through word of mouth. One person at a time. And what you do is you take your marketing dollars, you go spend it on Instagram ads. So the dollars are now spent and you're hoping you'll make some sales. That's how normal marketing works.
Exactly.
Our channel is just much more efficient. Our channel basically says if someone loves the products and they tell a friend, the sell happens first. We then pay them a commission for referring the products. So it's like the marketing expense happens second. So if you were to stick these bioactive peptides on a store shelf in Walmart or GNC or whatever the case is on Amazon, no one's educating someone on what the heck this stuff is. And so it doesn't ever get, its due course. I'll give you an example. Aloe vera came to market through direct sales. So 40-something years ago, someone's like, look, there's this stuff called aloe vera. Like, dude, if you get a sunburn, you should put this stuff on. Or, man, it's really good for your gut health, that kind of thing. Someone told that story and educated the population. You've heard of like antioxidants.
Yes.
So antioxidants came to market 30-some-odd years ago through what was called free radical biology, because antioxidants fight free radicals. So it's this story of free radical biology. People are like, what are you talking about, antioxidants? But yeah, they sold tens of billions of dollars on that platform because it was such a powerful story. Essential oils is another good example. You have a headache or something's going on, a sinus infection, whatever, and you have these different ways you could use essential oils, these natural remedies. So basically what a direct sales company says is we'll pay about half of what we generate in advertising, in marketing expense. And so this platform, I think we have a chance to build, tens of billions of dollars of revenue, which will mean tens of billions of dollars in advertising that we're able to pay people, which is really the third reason I did it, which is I wanted to create economic opportunity for people. Like that turns my crank to like create a business where someone else can create, economic opportunity for their family. That's really what happened to me. And so to be able to create a business that, like again, if I was selling it into a widget into Walmart and I was making a fortune, I would have a hole in my heart because I get personal value out of helping other people change their economic situation. So we pay our affiliates to share this message with people.
That's so powerful. And I mean, you've built like 5 multi-million-dollar companies. And from all those that you've built, including the one you currently have with Make Wellness, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned from that and your experience?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's always kind of hard to always, to narrow it down to one thing. I think one of the things I would share with you is this. It's the word until. I tell people the word until can guarantee your success. So Og Mandino wrote this great book years ago called The Greatest Salesman in the World. And it's these ancient scrolls. And scroll number 3 says, I will persist until I succeed. Most people, they persist until it gets hard. Or they persist until someone says no. Or they persist until the account, it cancels. Or until someone steals the client. Or until the team member quits. They persist until they get knocked down. They persist until they get that email from the private equity group with no phone call saying you're done. They're just like, they persist that long until that happens. Man, I think the secret of success, as simple as it sounds, is you just persist until you succeed. And it's a little bit of a left foot, right foot. You just persist until you just keep moving forward. Now, it's not always perfect. Some days you stumble forward, but you just persist until you succeed. And as I look back at this journey I've been on, I'm like, how the freak did this happen, dude? How did this happen? No college education, came from a divorced family, moved all over the place, no professional background. How did this happen? And honestly, if I had to just boil it down to one thing, it was just, I just persisted until I succeeded. And that was ultimately the formula that worked.
So powerful. It gives me the chills every time you keep speaking. You're a very great motivational speaker. But the reason why it's not just because there's a fallacy and there's often this thing where you get with motivational speakers oh my gosh, but you can just tell you practice what you preach. It's just so raw, it's real, and it's direct. It's something that you can relate with. Every story that you shared, I just paint a picture. I get mesmerized by listening to what you're saying. So I appreciate just going and talking about that.
That's sweet of you. I'll share this with you. One of my biggest compliments I ever got. I've had people ask my kids, they're like, so what's your dad like at home, or what's the biggest lesson you've learned from your dad? And my son, he's 21 now, which is wild that he's,
I thought you're 28. The math's not mathing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, how's this happening? My kids are getting so old. But he goes, my biggest lesson I've ever learned from my dad was not one of his speeches, not something he said. He goes, it's just, he lives all this stuff. It's his example. I was just like, for your son to say that, or for one of your kids to say that see you in the good days and the bad days, see you in the up days and down days, see when you're on, when you're off, you're just chilling at your house, that kind of thing. But the point is you want to be about this stuff, not just I don't teach crap that I don't do. And it doesn't mean I'm perfect by any stretch, but I won't teach it unless I do it. And so you want to kind of be about it versus just talk about it or read about it or think about it. And it's funny, again, going back to that story when with this private equity group, when that happened, you really do get down to the anchor of who you really are. I literally was asking myself, do I believe all this stuff? Because I felt like I did super dirty. So I was like, do I really believe all this? Life's happening for you, not to you. Do I believe all these isms that we all say? But what I ultimately anchored down to was all of that personal development work that I'm going to persist until I succeed. I'm getting back up. I'm a fighter. I'm not done yet. That kind of thing. And if I wouldn't have built that base of doing what I said I was going to do, or committing to yourself and building that base of identity, I would have got crushed like a cockroach did. I would have gotten smashed. But instead, I fought back and won.
And how have you, for somebody out there that doesn't have that same mentality, do you feel like it's something people can develop, or is it something you're just born with? Because sometimes people just give up easily sometimes.
Yeah, listen, you can 1,000% you can develop it.
Okay.
1,000%. So this is why I freaking wrote the book. So the book to me is success is an identity process. You realize you're the one. That's one. But I didn't write the book to motivate and inspire people. I hope they get motivated and inspired. I wrote the book to teach. It's like a practical book. Like it's like a step by step to practically teach frameworks and formulas and systems and like ways to do this, because God, it's so true. When you're like, people just give up. I'm like, I'm around people. Here's what's interesting about people. Humans can change. That's one of the beautiful things about humans. It's if you're a Christian, it's one of the great things about Christianity is that like, I don't care how dark the night was, you can change like through the power of Christ. Like that's like the good news of the gospel of Christ, right? However, people are very consistent. Like liars tend to lie, cheaters tend to cheat, stealers tend to steal, winners tend to win. It's because it's hard for a leopard to change their stripe. We build habits and patterns and beliefs and thoughts. We think about 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and about 90% of our thoughts are the same thoughts we thought yesterday. So if you think the same thought you thought yesterday, the thoughts lead to emotion. The emotion leads to actions. The actions lead to behaviors and habits. The habits lead to more thoughts. And you just keep living in this cycle, And so part of what I try and do is like help people to jolt out of it a little bit of like, whoa, like the mundane of just the like, that's what I'm saying, like the reaction to the distraction to the like the pressure to like, I got to pay the bill to just, just like, no, you can snap out of this a little bit and build new habits, new patterns, new thoughts, new words. And you start to build new patterns and habits to where you literally become the person you were born to be. But it's already in us. It is in you. It is of you. It is through you. Like that is who you are. The invitation or the challenge is to go be that one today, and that's what that book's designed to do, is to help you to step into who you were really born to be. And it's not in some of us; it's in all of us. That's
so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I can't believe it's been 53 minutes. Is that even like that? That must be rigged. Stop the count. Joking. I'll go real quick. So I want to ask you something. You're an author right now. 5 multi-million-dollar companies. One's about to generate 9 figures right now. A father, keynote speaker, public speaker, changing lives. A very important question I would really want to ask you, which I didn't plan on doing. Why do you do this?
I'll share with you 2 things. So there's an old Bible story, and I'm an amateur on the Bible, but this is an old Bible story that talks about it's called the parable of the talents. And basically what it says is there's like the master of the house, as it were, and has 3 servants, and he gives them talents. Now the talents back then were like a coin, and he gives 1 to one, he gives 2 to the next, and gives 5 to the next. So lesson number 1 is they all got something. So maybe you got 5, maybe I got 1, none of us got 0 talents, right? They come back, the one with 5 like did something with it, turned the 5 to 5 more, so the house now has 10. The one with 2, same thing, now has 4. The one with 1 buried their talent, or they hid it, or they buried it. And you say, well, why did they bury it? Is it because they were stupid? No. They buried it because they were fearful they were going to lose it. So a lot of times fear, our fear of what people are going to say, or fear of what people are going to do, or fear if I succeed, fear if I don't succeed, just our fear. We hide and we bury these talents that we were given, right? So master says, well done to the first 2. And then the last one, he calls them an unwise and slothful servant. So man, that's not a very awesome, description, unwise and slothful. And my take on it is this: your gifts and talents weren't given to you for you. Your gifts and talents were given to you for the rest of us. And so the reason that burying your talents isn't one of your options is those talents weren't they're not yours for you. They're yours for all of us. And so I've always felt like, I don't know if I have 1 talent or 3, I'm not sure, but like I feel like a responsibility to share them, like to like wear myself out and do the best I can. That's the first thing. I even felt that even as a kid. It's like, dude, you gotta like if I just, for reals, if I sat on my couch and just did nothing, I would feel like a unwise and a slothful servant. Second thing is, when I was driving down I-15, no kidding, drove down I-15 right past South Tom Mall, heading north towards Salt Lake, same road I came on to visit with you today. And this was probably about 17 years ago. My business has failed. I'm below 0 financially. It was just one of those days where, man, I just burst into tears driving down the freeway. 250,000 miles on my white Toyota Corolla. I'm just driving down the freeway. I just wanted to give up. I was just so overwhelmed, financially overwhelmed, stressed out. Things weren't coming together. And, if anyone listening that's either been through this or is going through this will relate to this. when you're below zero financially, every time you swallow, you can feel a lump in your throat. Or like you can feel the pressure on your chest. Every time you breathe in, breathe out, you can feel like this weight. Like, geez, dude. You don't even want to look at your bank account. You know, just like so discouraging.
You swipe by the spirit, you know.
Oh, for reals. You know, you're just like, oh my gosh. You know, like with that check, whether it's every week or every 2 weeks or every month, when it hits, you're just like, you're waiting for the days, you know. The pressure's real. You feel it. You know, it's really visceral. So I'm driving on this freeway, and I literally burst into tears, and I'm like having this conversation out loud with myself, but honestly having this conversation out loud with God. I'm like having this conversation. And I was like, listen, if I ever become successful, I'm like, you know, like wiping the tears. You know, people would try driving by like, what's wrong with this guy, you know? I go, if I ever become successful, I promise that I won't forget what it feels like to struggle. I won't forget all of these emotions. I was like, I promise, I won't, I promise, you know? And then I was like, second promise I made was if I promised if I ever became successful, I would do everything I could to help as many other people to achieve their dreams and goals as I could. Like I'd try and pay it forward the best that I could, you know? And so you say, why? And that to me is a fulfillment of promise number 2. Like coming here and being with you. First of all, it's my honor to be here, but like, do I have to do this now? No, I don't have to do this. Why would I do it? First of all, I admire your journey and hustle, and I see a lot of me and you, like, you know, but like why go drive all the way to Lake Powell, load up your family, load up the boat just to go speak at Jimmy's thing for 45 minutes in a gross houseboat with all these dudes? Like I don't have to do that stuff anymore. I never had to do it, you know, officially, but I'm saying you don't have to do it. I wasn't getting paid to do it to be a good friend. Why? You do it because it's a way to pay forward and keep that promise. And so to like share the gift, share the talent, hopefully inspire somebody, hopefully pour into somebody, hopefully remind someone who they really are and their real identity, and help them to like, you know, step into it where they look back later and they're like, yo, you really made an impact in my life. Like I heard your podcast or read your book or I saw you on stage or I met you, whatever. And to me, that's a fulfillment of that promise, because the truth is I had other people that were those little stepping stones. So Steve Jobs, at his famous commencement speech at Stanford, he said, you can't connect the dots of your life looking forward. You can only connect the dots of your life looking back. So you look back and you're like, oh, dude, if this wouldn't happen, that wouldn't happen. This person met that person, this experience, bad, good. All of those were stepping stones that led me to who I am. And I had people that were some of those dots. And so, you know, now I like, it's surreal, but I now get to be a dot for somebody to say, hey, you kind of kept me in the game.
Absolute mic drop. Thank you so much for sharing that, Justin. Appreciate that. The title of my podcast is called The Code to Winning, you know, insights you need today to seize the world tomorrow. Every concluding question I ask each guest, because everyone's got their own different perspective to what the term winning is. What does winning mean for you?
Yeah, so to me, it's so funny you asked that question. First thing, I think you got to define what race you're trying to win. To me, there's 2 races. The first race is the race I think we all think we're trying to win, which is like to make a ton of money or to be a huge influencer on social media or to have the house, have the car, have the life, all the stuff that you think of today. To me, there's a second race, which is the real race. The second race is like your relationship with your faith. Your second race is your relationship in your marriage or with your children. It's like the way you treat people, the way you show up is like your legacy stuff. And here's the good news. The good news is you can win both races. So in other words, you don't have to win. If you win the first race and you lose the second race, I feel like you lost the race. But you also don't have to lose the first race and you say, I'm really broke, but at least I'm spiritual. It's like, no, dude, you can go be both. You can like go live your very best life, have the house you want, have the car, do your life, do life as big as you want, and you can have deep faith, and you can have great marriage, and you can be a good human, and you can have great kids, and you can like add value in the world and like have a peaceful, happy life. You can do both. And so I to me, that's winning. To me, winning both races.
I wish I had a dropping bombs button. I would push like double the bomb right there. Thank you so much for sharing that. If you could let our viewers know where they can get a hold of you, if they want mentorship, if they want to get to like Make Wellness, if they want to like get some of the products, could you let our viewers know where to get a hold of you, please?
Yeah. So you can reach out to me on all the social media platforms. My website is iamjustinprince.com. I put out a ton of free content online, you know, to hopefully to inspire you and to teach you and to to give you the success steps and formulas and systems to, you know, be the one you're born to be. So feel free to reach out, and if I can serve or add value, I'd be happy to.
Awesome stuff. The code to winning insights you need today to seize the world tomorrow. We're also going to put a link in the description section for you to get your copy of Be the One. Also, you can DM Justin directly. They can get a hold of the book directly if they just DM you, like how they can buy it and stuff like that as well.
You get wherever you buy books too, Amazon, whatever, but I can send you a link too.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The code to winning insights you need today to seize the world tomorrow. Thank you very much, Justin.
Great job, brother.